Hello, brothers and sisters. Brother Trey here again, here with another Bible study. Today out of Genesis chapter 21. Last time we covered Genesis chapter 20, where Abraham visited Abimelech, and the Lord was going to wipe out Abimelech because he had taken Sarah for his wife. So, just to paraphrase. But anyway, Genesis chapter 21, and it reads, "And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his own son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, God hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, Who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah would have given children suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham had a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, when he had born, which she had born unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said unto Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman, and all that Sarah had said unto thee. Hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and the bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. She went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, Let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him, and lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. He dwelled in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spake unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God, that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, that thou shalt do unto me, and to the land where thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abraham said, I wot not who had done this thing, neither didst thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Abimelech said unto Abraham, What mean these 7 ewe lambs which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, For these 7 ewe lambs shall thou take of my hand, that they may be there, that they may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. Wherefore he called this place Beersheba, because they swore both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. That then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol the chief captain of his host. They returned unto the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba, and he called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land many days. Now let's go back over that. So the Lord had visited Sarah. So this long anticipated promise of God that she would bear a son. Sarah gave birth to Isaac. And and then the Lord had said it would be a year's time from the day that the Lord had spoken to them, saying that she was going to give birth. So he gave them a time limit, a certain set time when she was going to give birth. And after all that he went through with Abimelech, finally she gave birth to a son. After Abimelech's wife and handmaidens, their wombs were open. So after their wombs were open, guess what? Sarah's womb was open shortly thereafter. Therefore, she gave birth to Isaac. And now at this point, Abraham was 100 years old. So he had to wait 100 years to see the promise of God fulfilled. Well, for this particular promise that she would give birth. Maybe not 100 years since of course, he was only 100 years old then, so it wasn't completely 100 years since the promise. But he had already had Ishmael. So continuing on, so it was a set time the Lord. So the promises of God normally have a set time, appointed time that God points out for them to come to pass. So if you're waiting on a promise of God, God has promised you something, there's going to be a set time for it. You might have to have a set waiting period. There's seed, the word, time, and then you're going to reap a harvest eventually. But all the promises of God are yes and amen. They will happen no matter how long you have to wait. But continuing on, so she kind of laughed, and Sarah did laugh into disbelief after she gave birth. She who would have ever thought that she would have given birth, or gave that she would bore a son to Abraham at her age. And then as soon as he was weaned and he grew, they gave a feast. They celebrated that he was weaned. But then Sarah became jealous because she didn't want Isaac to share Isaac to share the promise with Ishmael of the blessings of Abraham that the Lord was going to bless him with. He was going to hand it down to his children. So she told her to send them out, cast them away. She didn't want to be heir with Isaac. But then the Lord said, let it not be grievous in the sight because of the lad and because of the bondwoman. And all that Sarah has said unto thee, hearken. Excuse me. Hearken to the voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. But Ishmael wasn't the promised seed, but it's still Abraham's seed. And he said, also the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation because he is thy seed. So he goes in verse 13 of this chapter. He says, because he is thy seed, he's going to make a nation. So he's going to continue on that. It says he just told Abraham he's going to make him a father of many nations. So Abraham rose up in the morning and took bread and bottled water. And he gave it to Hagar. So he sent them out with supply, with food, with water, out into the wilderness. But then eventually they ran out. But because they ran out of water. She was thought her Ishmael was going to die. They thought they were both going to die. She said, hide him from him because she doesn't wish to see for her child to die. But the Lord had heard the cries, heard the voice of the lad, had heard her cries, and because it was the seed of Abraham that he provided for. He had provided the water, the well for the water, and she filled the water bottle and gave Ishmael water to drink. So they continue on from there, and they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and she took him a wife out of Egypt. So continuing on with the seed, to become one. His mother brought Ishmael a wife from Egypt, and then continue on through the generations that way through Ishmael, which was part of the seed of Abraham. But then it came to pass at that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spake unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that you do. So even Abimelech said, the Lord is with you, because he could clearly see it. The Lord is with him in everything that he does. He said his favor of God. He could clearly see the favor of God on Abraham's life. He had a son that he'd been waiting for such a long time. He saw the great wealth, the men servants. I'm sure he saw all the other things, the man servants, maid servants, the wealth of animals, and so on and so forth. Then he after what happened with Sarah, that he made a covenant with. He's actually asked him not to do a false one. Don't lie to me or to my son or his son's son. Don't deal falsely with him. According to the kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me to the land where thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said he would swear. So they made a covenant. They made an agreement, a promise that they won't deal falsely with each other. So Abraham reproved Abimelech because of the well of the water. So because of the well of the water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. Which it must have been in a previous chapter. And Abimelech said, I what have done this thing. So I don't know who had done this thing. Neither didst thou tell me, neither heard of it. I didn't hear of it till today. So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Abimelech said to him, what do these 7 ewe lambs mean, set by themselves? So they are basically a gift, a witness, a purchase, or just a gift and a symbol that he had digged the well. I think he was just trying to purchase it with the 7 ewe lambs to purchase the well. That's how they did. They maybe not always money, but they bartered. They used things that they had and gave, like a gift, to purchase. They can give sheep, clothing, changes of raiment, food, whatever, goods to either get goods or service for exchange, to buy things, in exchange for things. So he had gave him the ewe lambs, and then because he digged a well, and there he called the place Beersheba because both of them swore. They made an agreement. And after they made Abimelech rose up, and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, they returned in the land of the Philistines. So they went back where they came from, and Abraham planted a grove or a garden or a vineyard in Beersheba, and called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. So they made a promise, they made a covenant, and he made a grove there. The name of the everlasting God. Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land, traveled or stayed in the Philistines' land many days. So he planted a grove. I think he was trying to establish a place there in the land of the Philistines and Beersheba. Well, you don't plant anything unless you plan to stay. So after the covenant, the Lord purchased land or in the well. Therefore, you had a place to stay, a place to call home. So they made an agreement, an alliance, for sorts, so they wouldn't, they were falsely with them or sons or sons. So for future generations, that's what the promise was. We're going to be allies, be friends. They wouldn't deal falsely with each other. So it was an alliance. Abraham was a father of many nations. So a nation, Abimelech being the leader or the governor of Gerar, I think that's what it was called in chapter 20. Yeah, he sojourned in Gerar. So there was like a treaty between nations. If you can include Abraham's nation, which is a nation of himself, because he was wealthy, and there was many handmaids and manservants, maidservants, and animals, and great wealth. Because he clearly saw the favor of the Lord upon him. So he made an alliance. He wanted to be blessed, being connected. So great. He wanted to be blessed too. So that can happen too in our walk with God, being connected with people, making divine connections. You can clearly tell that the favor of God is on somebody. The light of God showing on you. You see the glory of the Lord upon him, and His goodness is upon somebody. But you can see clearly, in Abraham's case, there was great wealth. He just had a son. He can clearly tell you the Lord with him. Plus, even the Lord spoke to Abimelech, saying, "You're about a dead man," in his dream. So he knew. And even the Lord told Abimelech that Abraham was a prophet, so he would pray for him and he would be saved. So the Lord told him who he was, basically saying he should be honored. So be careful to repent because he was a prophet, so you wouldn't offend or sin against the prophet, or in turn sin against the Lord, because he's a servant, as prophet, an ambassador to the Lord. So Jesus always said, "Whatever you say you do unto least of me, you do unto me." And David said, "Do my prophet, touch mine anointed, do my prophets no harm." So he's making a covenant with him. He'll be making a covenant, a treaty of peace between Abraham. So he's as if he's making a treaty with God, because Abraham was a friend of God, and like a spokesman of God, because he was a prophet, because that's what prophecy, they speak for the Lord. And they're like an Old Testament ambassador for the Lord. So therefore, if you treat the prophet well, you're going to be treated well, and you're going to be favored and blessed in return for being peaceful and blessing the people of the Lord. And that's what they were. Abraham gave gifts, the ewe lambs for the well, for the land, and they were exchanging as trade. It was a form of trade, trading lambs for a well, trading the oxen and whatever the things that they had traded. So it was trade, and international nation. Israel's, or Abraham's nation, which is a father of many nations, got the nation of God. This is before Israel was even, or Jacob was even born. So it was the Abraham's nation at this point until Jacob was born, and then God changed his name to Israel. But then Abimelech had made a treaty with people and people, nation and nation, of peace, of exchange, of trade, blessing one another. So therefore, in turn, Abimelech was only spared for giving Sarah back, but he was also, Abraham blessed him with the ewe lambs and buying and the trade. So in our walk, clearly we make the divine connections, and then that brings, we can make the Lord can bring a divine connection and brings blessing to our life. I mean, a lot of us look for that, but the Lord makes that, and we never know when it's coming, but the Lord will bring divine connections, and that will bring blessing to our life. We just have to notice it, like Abimelech did. We just have to know it, Lord, and we can ask the Lord, to bring divine connection and allow us to see it with our own eyes and to understand and wisdom to know what type of connection it is. If it's not a divine connection, Lord, ask the Lord to bring you out of it, to disconnect from it, because they might, suck your resources and steal from you instead of give back. They take from you and not give anything in exchange, like Abraham and Abimelech did. But the Lord does bring divine connections, and where both parties are blessed one way or another. They give and take to each other, but it's not on one side, it's both. But if you're in that situation where you need a divine connection, I certainly could use it. Divine connection to bless one another. I don't have a whole lot. I definitely don't, but I'd be willing, because the Lord blesses me like Abraham. If he's going to bless me, he took me out of my homeland like he did Abraham. And then I believe he's going to bless me, but I know that I need to be a good steward of what he's blessing me with, and that way I can bless others. So, and anybody that's connected to me can also be blessed like Abimelech was. So that's the thing about thinking about those who are connected. Do they take away from you or they give back to you? They're truthful with you. Make sure if you don't know somebody, you meet somebody new, make sure you treat them well, because it may be the divine connection that you need, and they can bless you the way that you need them to, like that you've been asking the Lord for. So make sure you're treating everyone well, as if you're treating them as if you met somebody new, and possibly you may be treating somebody well that the Lord has sent you. Because you never know until the Lord reveals it to you. So I hope you got something from this message, or from this chapter. I definitely brought something out, especially speaking to myself as I did the Bible study. So I pray this blessed you. If you want to get connected, if you feel like you're a divine connection to me, please get a hold of me. If you feel like you can bless me somehow, if I have been a blessing to you, pray to the Lord, ask him how you can bless me. I do have a video saying how you can bless me, or how you can partner with me in another video. So if you would do that, you can get connected with me through instant messages, or just watch the video and show them many ways that you can get in contact or get connected. Partner with us, partner with me and my social media, ministry, because I believe it's what the Lord has had me do at this moment in this season. So be blessed in Jesus' name.